It was a rainy evening. The clouds were dark and the wind was cold. A black woman stepped out of a taxi. She was wearing simple clothes, an old brown coat and black shoes. Her hair was tied in a bun. She carried only one small bag. She stood in front of a big, beautiful hotel. The golden sign said, Royal Pearl Hotel. She looked up at the building. Her eyes were calm, but there was something deep inside them. Pain, memory, and something more. She took a deep breath and walked slowly through the glass doors. Inside the hotel, everything looked expensive. Soft lights, clean white marble floor, and a huge chandelier hanging from the ceiling. The smell of flowers and perfume filled the air. At the front desk, a white man in a suit stood. His name was Mr. Brown. He was the hotel manager. He was talking to a rich guest and laughing. He saw the woman walking in and his smile faded. He looked at her from top to bottom. Then, with a frown, he whispered to his assistant, "She looks lost. She must be in the wrong place." Angela, that was her name, walked towards the desk calmly. "Excuse me," she said politely. "I have a room reservation under the name Angela Hill." Mr. Brown raised one eyebrow. "A reservation?" he repeated with a smirk. "Are you sure it's this hotel?" Angela nodded. "Yes." He forced a fake smile. "Let me check." He typed on the computer for a moment. Then he said, "I don't see any booking under that name." Angela took out her phone. "I have the confirmation email. Here." She showed it to him. Mr. Brown glanced at it but didn't really look. "Ma'am," he said, now more serious, "I'm sorry, but this is a luxury hotel. We don't accept walk-ins. If you need help, there's a cheaper motel across the street." Angela looked at him, still calm. "I booked this room 2 weeks ago. I've stayed here before." Mr. Brown's voice grew colder. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave." A few people in the lobby turned to look. One woman even whispered to her husband. "Why is he being so rude?" Angela stood still. Her eyes didn't blink. Then she said, "I think you should look again." Mr. Brown waved to the security guard. "Excuse me, sir," said a soft voice. It was Mr. Brown's assistant, a young woman with glasses. She had been watching quietly. "I just checked," she said nervously. "There is a booking under Angela Hill. It's on the VIP list." Mr. Brown paused. "VIP?" Angela smiled a little. "Yes. I usually don't like attention." But Mr. Brown didn't believe it. "That must be a mistake," he said. "You need to leave, ma'am." The security guard came closer. Angela looked around. Everyone was staring now. Some were recording with their phones. "I see," Angela said softly. Then she opened her small bag and took out a black folder. She placed it on the desk and opened it. Inside was a document with a golden seal. At the top, it said, Royal Pearl, International Hotel Chain, Owner Document, Angela Hill. Mr. Brown leaned in. His eyes widened. His face turned pale. He grabbed the document and read it again. "I bought this hotel chain 2 years ago," Angela said calmly, "and I'm here for a surprise visit." Silence. No one moved. Then Angela turned to the security guard and said, "Please ask this man to leave the hotel. He's making the guests uncomfortable." The guard looked confused. "Ma'am, he's the manager." Angela nodded. "Not anymore." Mr. Brown's lips trembled. This is a joke, right?" Angela looked at him and said, "No, Mr. Brown, the joke is over. You judged me by my skin. You assumed I didn't belong here. But I created this place. I made it safe for all people, rich or poor, black or white." Everyone was now quiet. A few people started clapping. Others nodded. Mr. Brown slowly stepped back. He didn't know what to say. His pride was broken, his face red with shame. Angela turned to the assistant. "Please show me to my room." I'll have a meeting with the staff in the morning. The assistant smiled. Of course, ma'am. Angela walked past Mr. Brown, calm and proud. The same step she took years ago. But this time, nobody recognized her. Until now. The next morning, the hotel was full of whispers. People at the front desk spoke in low voices. Did you hear what happened last night? One staff member asked. Yes, another replied. That woman, she's the real owner. No way, said a young cleaner. She looked so simple. The assistant manager, Maria, nodded slowly. She didn't just look simple. She chose to look that way. It was a test. In the staff break room, Mr. Brown sat quietly. His eyes looked tired. He hadn't slept all night. The shame of what he did was still fresh in his mind. He had insulted the owner of the hotel in front of guests and staff. His hands shook slightly as he held his coffee. I didn't know, he whispered. I thought she was just what? Maria asked. She stood at the door, arms crossed. Mr. Brown didn't answer. Maria sighed. She's holding a staff meeting today, 10 a.m. Everyone has to be there. 10 a.m. Conference room. Angela stood at the front of the large room. Staff members filled every chair. Some looked nervous. Some looked curious. Others were embarrassed. Angela wore a light blue blazer. She looked strong and calm. There was no anger in her voice, only truth. Thank you all for coming, she began. I know last night was a surprise for many of you. Some of you were shocked, some confused, some even disappointed. She looked around slowly, then continued. I did not come here to fire people. I came here to open eyes. Mr. Brown shifted in his seat. He felt everyone watching him. Angela spoke again. When I first walked into this hotel, no one recognized me. That's fine. I didn't expect special treatment. But what I saw, what I felt, was something I know very well. She paused. Judgment, cold looks, quick decisions, all based on how I looked. A few staff lowered their heads. Angela continued, Let me tell you something about myself. I grew up in the South. My mother cleaned hotel rooms. My father fixed pipes. We were poor, but we had dreams. I studied at night. I worked 2 jobs. I saved every dollar. My first hotel was small, only 6 rooms, but I built it. And now, I own more than 40 hotels around the country. There was silence in the room. Even Mr. Brown looked surprised. Angela's voice grew soft. But I never forgot how people treated me before I was successful. That's why I came here in simple clothes, to see how my staff behaves when no one is watching. Back in the lobby. Meanwhile, outside the meeting room, guests were talking too. A video from last night had been shared online. Someone had recorded the moment when Mr. Brown asked Angela to leave, and then her reveal as the hotel's owner. It had gone viral. On TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, hashtags were trending. Angela, the owner, respect before looks. Racist manager exposed journalists. Were calling the hotel. Bloggers were making reaction videos. Guests were posting reviews like, I saw it happen with my own eyes, that woman is a queen. The manager was so rude, but she stayed calm. She's powerful. Back in the staff room, Maria's phone buzzed again. She whispered to a coworker, This story is everywhere now. Mr. Brown's breaking point. Later that evening, Mr. Brown knocked on Angela's office door. Come in, she said. He stepped inside, holding a letter in his hand. I wanted to apologize, he said quietly. I judged you. I disrespected you. And now I've embarrassed myself. Angela looked at him with calm eyes. You didn't just embarrass yourself, she said. You embarrassed this hotel. You hurt our image. You made many people feel small. Not just me. He nodded, eyes down. I wrote a resignation letter, he said, placing it on her desk. I don't deserve to stay. Angela looked at the letter but didn't touch it. You think walking away will fix it? she asked. I don't know. Angela leaned back in her chair. Let me ask you something, Mr. Brown, she said. Why did you treat me the way you did? He swallowed hard. Because you didn't look rich. You looked ordinary. No, Angela said. You mean I looked black and poor? He couldn't answer. Angela stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the hotel lights glowed under the night sky. I don't want your resignation, she said suddenly. Mr. Brown looked up in surprise. You don't? No, she said, turning around. I want something harder. The morning was quiet. A cold wind blew through the city streets. Inside the Royal Pearl Hotel, everyone felt nervous. Something big was about to happen. At 9 a.m., Mr. Brown walked into the lobby wearing his usual suit. But this time, no one greeted him. Staff looked away. Whispers followed him like shadows. He stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. Today's meeting was not like the others. It wasn't about profits or room service or new bookings. It was about what had happened and what was going to change. The elevator doors opened. Angela was already in the boardroom, sitting at the head of the long table. She wore a dark green suit, calm, strong. Her eyes didn't blink when she saw Mr. Brown. Other senior members of the company were seated around her, regional managers, directors, even the legal advisor. Everyone had serious faces. Mr. Brown slowly walked to the chair at the far end of the table. No one said, "Good morning." Angela speaks. Angela looked at everyone and said, "Let's begin." She tapped her fingers on the table, then looked straight at Mr. Brown. "I want the truth," she said. "What were you thinking that night?" Mr. Brown swallowed. "I thought she didn't belong. I made a mistake. I let my bias control my actions." "Bias?" Angela raised an eyebrow. "You didn't just have bias. You acted with power. You threw out a guest without checking her name." "Why?" He looked down. "Because of how you looked." "Say it clearly," Angela said firmly. "You didn't say that yesterday." He took a breath. "Because you looked poor and black." The room became silent. Angela nodded slowly. Finally, honesty. The real lesson? She stood up and walked to the whiteboard. "Do you know what it feels like to be invisible?" she asked. "To walk into a room and have people judge you before you speak?" She wrote 2 words on the board: respect and power. "This hotel was built on a dream," she said. "A dream of respect for all people. But some of you use your power to make others feel small." Mr. Brown looked ashamed. One director adjusted his tie nervously. Angela turned around. "I have a plan, but it begins with change, real change." She handed folders to everyone. Each folder had a new title. Project Reset. Respect starts here. Inside were new rules, new training policies, and a staff reshuffling list. The shocking announcement, Angela took a deep breath and said, "Mr. Brown will not be fired." There were murmurs in the room. Some looked shocked. "But," she continued, "he will step down from his role as manager." She looked at him. "You will go to our smallest hotel in a rural town, not as a boss, not even as assistant. You will work as a cleaner." Mr. Brown blinked. "A cleaner?" "Yes," she said. "You need to learn what it feels like to be ignored, to work hard and be unseen. That's the only way you'll understand what you did to others," the legal advisor whispered. "That's unusual." Angela replied, "So was what happened last week." Mr. Brown asked quietly, "And if I refuse?" Angela smiled gently. "Then your resignation will be accepted. But if you accept the assignment and complete it, we'll see if you deserve a second chance." A long walk, Mr. Brown walked out of the boardroom holding the papers Angela gave him. His hands were shaking. He walked slowly through the hallway, remembering the way he had once walked with pride. Now he walked with shame. Down in the parking lot, his car felt colder. The engine started, but he sat in silence. The weight of his actions, his past, and now his future. It all hit him. He whispered, "Can I really change?" Meanwhile, in the office back in her office, Angela sat at her desk. Maria, the assistant manager, came in. "That was powerful," she said. Angela looked tired but strong. "I didn't want revenge. I wanted growth." Maria asked, "Do you really believe he'll change?" Angela nodded slowly. "Sometimes. Pain teaches what power never can." She opened her laptop and clicked on a file. It was an old photo, a young girl standing in front of a motel holding a mop. Her eyes looked just like Angela's today. The small hotel in the countryside was quiet. Birds sang in the morning light. The paint on the walls was fading. The yachid furniture was old. There was no marble floor or chandelier here, just silence and dust. Inside, Mr. Brown wore a cleaner's uniform. His hands were dry from using soap and water all day. He cleaned floors, washed windows, and carried heavy bags to guest rooms. No one knew he used to be a hotel manager. Now he was just the cleaning guy. A guest dropped a coffee cup on the floor. "Clean it," the man said coldly, not even looking at him. Mr. Brown didn't speak. He bent down and cleaned the mess quietly. Every day was the same. No respect, no kindness, just hard work and silence. But deep inside, something was changing. Back at Royal Pearl, Angela's office. Meanwhile, back at the City Hotel, Angela sat alone in her office. In her hand was a small old photograph. She looked at it for a long time. It showed a 12-year-old girl standing in a motel hallway holding a mop. Her clothes were dirty, her eyes were tired, but her back was straight. Angela closed her eyes. The memory returned like a flood. Flashback. 20 years ago. Little Angela stood beside her mother, who was scrubbing a bathroom floor. They worked at a small roadside motel in Georgia. The owner, a rude white man, yelled often. "Faster! The guests are coming!" he shouted. Angela's mother didn't reply. She just scrubbed harder. Angela looked at her mother and whispered, "Why does he talk to you like that?" Her mother smiled sadly. "Because he thinks we're nothing." Angela clenched her fists. "But we are something." Her mother nodded. "Yes, baby, but the world won't see it unless you show them." Angela never forgot those words. Years later. A dream begins. Angela worked hard. She cleaned houses, worked at gas stations, and studied at night. She didn't go to parties. She didn't buy new clothes. She saved every single dollar. At 24, she bought a tiny motel. It had only 6 rooms and broken beds. People laughed at her. "You? A hotel owner? You don't even look the part." But Angela didn't listen. She painted the walls herself. She cleaned every room. She stood at the front desk and welcomed every guest with a smile. Slowly, guests came back. Then more. And more. In 10 years, she owned 5 hotels. Then 10. Then 40. But she never forgot where she started. Back to present. Mr. Brown learns at the rural hotel. Mr. Brown was finishing his shift when an old woman called him over. She pointed to a heavy suitcase. "Carry this to my room," she ordered. Mr. Brown smiled politely and picked it up. As they walked down the hallway, the woman looked at him and said, "You look like a smart man. Why are you doing this job?" Mr. Brown paused. "Because I made a mistake," she nodded slowly. "Mistakes teach more than books sometimes." He smiled sadly. "I'm starting to believe that." Back at Royal Pearl, a letter arrives. Maria walked into Angela's office with an envelope. "This came today," she said. Angela opened it. Inside was a short, handwritten letter. "Ms. Hill, I used to think I knew everything. I thought power meant respect. But I was wrong. I've learned more in 2 weeks as a cleaner than I did in 10 years as a manager. Thank you for not firing me. Sincerely, David Brown Angela smiled softly. He's learning, Maria asked. Are you really going to give him a second chance? Angela looked out the window. I'll decide when I see what kind of man comes back. Angela's box of secrets. Later that night, Angela opened a wooden box from her closet. Inside were her first paycheck as a motel owner, a photo of her mother with a mop, a letter from the bank denying her loan, a notebook filled with dreams. Written when she was 17, she read one line from the notebook. One day I will build a hotel where no one feels small. Tears filled her eyes. Her success was not just about money or buildings. It was about proving that pain can be turned into power. Back at the rural hotel, the mirror, Mr. Brown stood in the staff washroom wiping sweat from his forehead. He looked into the cracked mirror. For the first time, he didn't see the manager. He saw a man who had judged others. He saw a man who finally understood what it meant to be small and silent. He whispered to himself, I was wrong. Rain fell hard that night. Thunder rumbled in the sky. Inside the Royal Pearl Hotel, Angela stared at her phone. Her hands were still. The receptionist had just said, Ma'am, Mr. Brown is gone. He left a note. He didn't say where he went. Angela stood in silence. Her eyes didn't blink. For a moment, the past, the present, and everything she had built felt fragile. Maria entered the office and asked, Should I call security? The police? Angela shook her head. No, he's not dangerous. He's just lost. The note and assistant handed Angela the note Mr. Brown had left behind. It read, Angela, I tried. I really did. But I can't live like this. The shame is too heavy. I'm not strong like you. I thought I could become better, but maybe I'm not meant to change. Tell the staff I'm sorry. Don't look for me. I don't deserve a second chance. David Angela read the words twice. Then she folded the note slowly. She whispered to herself, He hasn't fallen. He's running. Where did he go? Far away from the hotel, Mr. Brown walked, alone through empty streets. He had no car, no luggage, and no place to sleep. His cleaner uniform was wet from the rain. He entered a small, cheap diner and sat in a corner. The waitress brought him a coffee. He didn't drink it. He just stared at his reflection in the window. He thought about everything, how he used to walk with pride, how he treated people like they were less, how Angela had shown him grace. But it still wasn't enough. He whispered, Maybe I'm too late. An unexpected conversation. An old man sat down at the next table. You look lost, the old man said. Mr. Brown sighed. Maybe I am. The man nodded. Everyone falls, but only a few get back up. Mr. Brown looked at him. What if I fall again? Then you stand again, the man replied. That's what makes you human. Mr. Brown looked down at his hands. I was a hotel manager. Now, nothing. The old man smiled kindly. No, son. Now you're something real. Angela's past. Revisited back at her hotel, Angela walked alone through the staff hallway. She paused near the laundry room. The sound of machines reminded her of her teenage years, when she worked 16-hour shifts to pay her school fees. She sat on a bench and closed her eyes. People like us, she thought. We don't get kindness easily. That's why we must give it. Maria came and sat beside her. You okay? She asked. Angela nodded. I've seen the bottom. I know what it looks like. That's why I saw hope in Mr. Brown. Maria looked confused. Even after what he did? Angela replied. Especially after that. Because when a powerful person breaks and learns, that's where real change starts. The phone call at midnight, Angela's phone rang. It was a security guard from the countryside hotel. "Ma'am, I think we found him." Angela stood up. "Where?" "He's at a small shelter in the city. A volunteer recognized him. He's not causing trouble, just quiet, alone." Angela didn't speak for a moment. Then she said, "Tell him. I'll be there by morning." The next morning, a visit at 7 a.m., Angela arrived at the shelter. It was a simple place. No shining lights, no polished walls. Just a safe room, food, and a few warm blankets. She found Mr. Brown sitting near a window looking outside. He didn't turn when he saw her. "You came," he said quietly. Angela sat beside him. "I said I would," she replied. Mr. Brown's voice cracked. "I failed." Angela shook her head. "No. You fell, and then you stood up again." He looked at her with tired eyes. "But I walked away." She replied, "Yes. But you didn't walk into darkness. You walked into truth." The turning point, mister. Brown reached into his pocket and gave her something. It was a new letter. "To the staff, I judged people by their clothes, their color, their silence. But now I know. Respect is not about power. It's about kindness. If you allow me to return, not as your boss, but as your helper, I will give every day to prove I've changed. This is not a request. It's a hope." Angela looked at the letter and smiled. "You finally understand," she said. A new decision back at the hotel boardroom 2 days later, Angela stood before the company's top members. She held up the letter. "Mr. Brown is not the same man we knew," she said. "He lost everything. But in that loss, he found himself." Some managers looked unsure. "But how can we trust him?" one asked. Angela replied, "Because I was once just like him, broken, afraid, judged, and someone gave me a chance." There was silence. Then one manager said, "Let him prove it." Angela nodded. "Then it's decided. Mr. Brown will return, but not as a manager." Mr. Brown's return. 1 week later, Mr. Brown walked into the Royal Pearl Hotel. He wore a fresh uniform, not a suit, but a simple white shirt with the name tag, David, Staff Support. He greeted each staff member with respect. He cleaned tables, helped with luggage, and served tea with a smile. No more shouting, no more pride, only humility. Some workers whispered, "Is that really him?" Angela watched from her office window and smiled. The Royal Pearl lobby was quiet. The soft sound of music played in the background. Staff moved gently between the guests. Then the doors opened. A tall man entered. His shoes clicked loudly on the marble floor. He wore a black coat and dark glasses. Angela looked up from the front desk. Her smile faded. Her body froze. The man took off his glasses and said with a small grin, "Ms. Hill, we've met before, haven't we?" Angela stared at him. "Yes," she said. "Mr. Harvey." Flashback, 20 years ago. Angela was 12. She and her mother cleaned rooms at a cheap motel in Georgia. The owner, Mr. Harvey, was loud and cruel. He shouted at them for working too slow. He cut their pay without reason. He once pushed Angela's mother because a towel was folded the wrong way. Angela remembered that face, that voice, that pain. Back to present, the confrontation. Begins, Angela walked around the counter slowly. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "What are you doing here, Mr. Harvey?" He laughed softly. "Vacation. I heard this hotel chain was rising fast. Wanted to see the magic myself." She nodded. "You didn't know I owned it?" "I did," he said. "That's why I came." "Why did he come back?" Angela led him to her office. Maria followed, concerned. Mr. Harvey looked around and smiled. "You've done well, Angela." "I mean, Miss Hill," he corrected. Angela replied. "People change when they are given a chance," he smirked. Or when they steal it. Angela's eyes narrowed. I didn't steal anything. I built it. Mr. Harvey leaned forward. But you forgot one thing. The land your first motel stood on. It once belonged to me. Angela frowned. That land was abandoned. I bought it legally. Mr. Harvey smiled darkly. Yes, but with a fake loan approval. Didn't you? Angela stood up slowly. Be careful what you say. The threat Mr. Harvey opened his coat and pulled out a file. I did some digging, he said. Looks like your paperwork from 15 years ago wasn't perfect. One mistake. And all this, he looked around, could be gone. Angela didn't blink. You're bluffing, she said. He leaned in closer. Maybe. Or maybe I just want a piece of your success. 40% share. And I walk away. Maria gasped. Angela stayed silent. The past. Still hurts that night, Angela sat in her office, alone. She remembered her mother scrubbing the motel floor. She remembered the day Mr. Harvey fired her for no reason. She remembered the tears. The hunger. The cold winters. Now he wanted her empire? Angela clenched her fists. No, she whispered. Not again. An unexpected supporter, Mr. Brown, knocked on the door. I heard he's back, he said softly. Angela nodded. Mr. Brown said, I know what that man did to you. I saw it. Years ago. Angela looked up in surprise. You worked with him? Mr. Brown nodded slowly. He fired my sister too. Said she was too dark for the front desk. That day, I walked away from that job. Angela looked at him. Then, why did you act the same way years later? Mr. Brown's eyes dropped. Because I was weak. But not anymore. He added, if you fight him, I'll stand with you. Angela smiled softly. You better be ready, she said. This won't be easy. The media twist. The next day, Mr. Harvey held a press meeting at a nearby hotel. He spoke into the microphone. I support black-owned businesses, but business is business. If someone built their empire with bad papers, should they stay? Free? He showed the 15-year-old document. Reporters gasped. Angela watched the news silently. Maria asked, What will you do? Angela replied, I'll tell the truth. Angela's truth. That evening, Angela called her own press conference. She stood calmly, looking powerful. She said, Yes, 15 years ago I made a mistake. A small mistake on one form, but not a crime. I told the bank and we fixed it. But Mr. Harvey doesn't care about truth. He cares about control. He abused his workers. I was one of them. Now he wants to own what he never earned. I say no. Not for me. Not for any woman who has ever been told she's too poor, too black, or too weak. The room clapped. Online, the video went viral. Mr. Harvey's fall begins. Social media exploded. Stand with Angela started trending. Old workers from Mr. Harvey's motel days came forward. They shared stories, proof, photos, pay slips, audio, clips. News channels picked it up. Suddenly, he was the one on the defense. His own hotel in Texas lost investors. People called for investigations. Angela just watched quietly. Support from all sides. The next morning, hundreds of people stood outside Royal Pearl Hotel with posters. She rose, let her shine. Respect over riches. Angela's story is our story. Inside, Mr. Brown stood at the front desk with other staff members. One cleaner said, She gave us jobs when no one did. Another said, She made this place a home. Angela walked through the lobby. Everyone clapped. She had not just survived her past, she had defeated it. The city lights blinked far below as Angela stood on the rooftop of the Royal Pearl Hotel. The wind was soft, peaceful, but peace never stayed long in her life. Behind her, a shadow moved silently. Someone was watching. A strange message. Next morning, Maria walked into Angela's office looking worried. Angela, she said. You need to see this. Angela took the envelope Maria was holding. There was no name, no stamp. Just her name written in red ink, Angela Hill. Inside was a small photograph. Angela's eyes widened. It was a picture of her, from 20 years ago, mopping the motel floors as a child. On the back of the photo, someone had written, "The past never forgets. The investigation." Begins. Angela showed the photo to Mr. Brown. He frowned. This didn't come from Harvey. He's too loud. This is quiet. Planned. Angela nodded. Someone else is playing a game. Maria added, maybe someone close. Angela paused. Her voice turned cold. Then we start from the inside. She called the head of security. I want names of everyone who's had access to my office, past 30 days, staff, guests, everyone. Clues from the past. Angela sat in her office, holding the old photo. She remembered that day. The pain, the smell of bleach, the humiliation. But there was something else. A face. A man who used to visit Harvey often. A friend of his. Always wore sunglasses. Never spoke to the staff. Angela's hands tightened. She whispered, Leon. File number 98. That night, Mr. Brown entered Angela's office with an old hotel employment file. Look at this, he said. It was for a man named Leon Charles. He had worked briefly in one of Harvey's motels in Texas, then disappeared. No exit papers, no contact. Angela looked at his photo. Yes, that's him. He used to laugh when Harvey insulted my mom. Mr. Brown said, he's not gone. He's hiding. Angela leaned back. Then let's bring him into the light. A mysterious business offer. The next morning, Angela received a strange email from a company called Westbridge Holdings. They offered to buy 51% of Royal Pearl Hotels. The price? Double what the company was worth. Maria was shocked. Why would anyone offer so much? Angela replied, because they want control, not profit. She checked the sender's IP address with her tech team. Result, Leon Charles, hidden under a fake name. The man was back. A dangerous truth. Angela began digging deeper. She found old newspaper clippings from 18 years ago. Leon Charles had been arrested twice for fraud and harassment, but every time, someone bailed him out. That someone, Mr. Harvey. Maria gasped. They worked together? Angela said. Leon was the brain. Harvey was just the face. Now that Harvey had fallen, Leon wanted what remained. Angela's plan. Angela gathered her top team, including Mr. Brown and Maria. This is no longer just business, she said. It's war. She had 3 steps. Trace Leon's location through the fake company. Use media to control the story before Leon can strike. Set a legal trap. If he makes one false step, they'd catch him. Trap set. The fake deal. Meeting. Angela replied to Westbridge Holdings. I'm interested, she wrote. Let's meet face to face. They agreed. The meeting was set in one of Angela's side hotels, a small place with tight security and hidden cameras. Leon arrived wearing a suit and sunglasses. Angela entered the meeting room. The air went cold. He stood up, smiled. Well, he said. You grew up. Angela replied. But you never did. The confrontation. Recorded. Angela smiled politely. Let's talk numbers. Leon leaned in. You've built something. Big, Angela. But you're not made for this game. Let me run it. You take a back seat. I'll make you richer than you ever imagined. Angela placed a pen on the table, then said, What if I say no? Leon's smile faded. You might lose everything. Angela's voice turned sharp. So it was you behind the threats. Leon leaned back. Maybe? Angela tapped her pen twice. Suddenly, 2 security officers entered. One held a USB drive. We've recorded everything, Angela said. You just confessed. Leon stood up, angry. "You tricked me," Angela replied. "No, you showed me who you really are." Justice. Begins Leon was arrested outside the hotel. As he was taken away, reporters surrounded him. Angela walked out slowly, confident. One reporter asked, "Why didn't you give up when your past came back?" Angela looked into the camera and said, "Because I am not afraid of my past. I built from it." Angela stood at her apartment door, holding the small note in her hand. "There's one more truth you don't know. About your mother." Her heart beat fast. The handwriting looked shaky. Old. Familiar. But not her mother's. Angela looked around the hallway. It was empty. Silent. She stepped inside, locked the door, and read the note again. At the bottom it said, "Come to the old motel. Midnight." Back to where it all began. At 12 a.m., Angela arrived at the old broken motel where she once cleaned floors with her mother. The sign was cracked. The paint was faded. But the memories were still fresh. She walked inside. The lights were dim. The air smelled like dust and time, and in the corner of the lobby sat an old woman. Angela froze. "Mom?" she whispered. But it wasn't her mother. The unexpected visitor. The woman stood up slowly and said, "No, child. I'm your aunt. My name is Clara, your mother's older sister." Angela stepped back. "My mom never told me she had a sister." Clara nodded. "She had her reasons. There's something you don't know." She handed Angela an old brown box. Inside were photos, letters, and a hospital file. Angela looked confused. "What is this?" Clara looked at her with watery eyes. "The truth about your birth." The secret file. Angela opened the hospital file. Her name was not listed as Angela Hill. Her birth name was Angela Harvey. Angela's hands shook. "No, that's impossible." "Harvey? Like Mr. Harvey?" Clara nodded slowly. "Angela, Harvey is your father." The dark past. Clara sat down and explained everything. "Your mother worked for Mr. Harvey when she was just 19. She was poor, alone, and he took advantage of her. She got pregnant, but when she told him, he denied it, fired her. She had no money, no help." Angela whispered. "She never told me." Clara replied, "She was ashamed and scared. She changed your name to Hill. She didn't want you to carry his name. She wanted you to grow up strong, without his shadow." Angela felt her legs weaken. She sat down. Her whole life had just changed. The emotional storm. Angela stared at the photo in her hand. It showed her mother, young, pregnant, and alone, sitting on a hospital bed. Tears filled her eyes. "I fought him all these years, and I didn't know he was my father," Clara said gently. "But you didn't become like him. You became better." Angela looked up. "Does he know?" Clara shook her head. "No. Your mother never told him." Angela wiped her tears. "Good. He doesn't deserve to know." Closure. The next morning, Angela visited her mother's grave. She sat beside the headstone with the old box in her lap. "Mom," she whispered, "I know everything now. I'm not angry. I understand. You were strong, and you wanted to protect me." She placed the hospital photo on the grave. "I made it, Mom. We made it." A soft breeze blew through the trees, as if her mother was listening.